Hello, everybody, and welcome to Holy Manticore Games. All right, so let's jump right on in. The first thing that we're going to be doing is mixing up some paint. I took some turquoise and yellow apple barrel, and I created a light, bright emerald color. So that actually turned out super awesome, and I really enjoyed the color. So I decided that I'm gonna cover the entire container in that color, almost like a regular shipping container that you would see nowadays, like orange, pink, blue, all those big name brand shipping containers that you see out on the boats or on the trains. So that's what I was going for with this. I'm applying that first coat with a big 1-inch brush and just getting a really solid coat, couple coats down. What I wanted to do was work in very light layers, so I'm not putting too much on there. And I'm trying not to overwork it, so that way it builds a thin layer. Then I put another couple of layers on top. Altogether, I think I ended up with like 2 to 3 layers on this first coat. So let's just watch this little process of touching up each one of the sides and mixing up some extra paint and making sure everything's good to go. So I didn't uh, focus solely on one container at a time. I did like 1 to 2 sides and then let it set, and then 1 to 2 sides on the next one, and so on and so forth. So that way it wouldn't get like fingerprints and stuff like that in the paint. And I think it ended up turning out really well. So what we're doing now, in checking these out after they dried, there was several spots on each one of them that were either still gray or just not a good enough coat for the area that I wanted. So going in with a finer brush just to touch up on those light areas that had some gray showing through, or where I wanted some extra heavier paint for a later step. Again, each step I just kind of inspect it and then go on. So this stuff right here, this deco art, one step crackle, basically is what it is a crackle paint. And depending on how thick you put it on is how big the crackles are. And it takes about 24 hours to dry in total. I know the bottle says something else, but it really didn't start showing the cracks until about 24 hours later. So I just ended up slathering this on heavy because I wanted a lot of cracks and a lot of deep cracks in the covering, to like over weather the container, so that way it would be more abandoned and just overgrown in the final stages of everything. I didn't want to waste any of the crackle paint, so I literally just started using this round brush that I got from Walmart and slathering it all on. And as you can see, with as heavy as I put it on, it dries real smooth. It puddled a little bit because gravity is gravity. Um, and then it ended up closing and sealing the doors in place. So two of them were sealed shut, one of them was sealed open, but I was able to get that fixed with an X-Acto knife. Um, when I turned the light on and showed the up close, all those wrinkles were actually cracks in the covering from the one step crackle. So I'm going to be applying a burnt umber to the entire container, and so I'm going to slather it on and then I'm going to wipe it off. And what I started with was wiping it on and off with a paper towel, but it created a lot of lint. So I would apply the paint with a sponge, and then I would clean it off with the paper towel. And you can kind of see right there, I started using the sponge there, and as the highlight goes from this stage, the sponge ended up working out fantastically, and then cleaning it off with the paper towel let me have a lot more control, so it ended up working up really well. At this point, I noticed that there were some really deep cracks and some areas that just weren't picking up the smear of paint. So I wanted to make sure that I got the burnt umber in there. And as you can see, I am still learning how to edit these videos, and this program ended up putting some highlight reel footage from the beginning all the way in to the middle. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I'm going to be a little more vigilant on how that worked. But I guess I'll take this time to do a little shameless plug. This video is on YouTube, but I also have a TikTok, an Instagram, and a Threads page. All of them are Holy Manticore games, and you can go and check those out. So please interact with that as you see fit. But I just want to let you guys know that YouTube is definitely where I'm going to be putting up all of the videos, but on all the other ones is where I'm doing my reels and my shorts and my posts and discussion questions and things like that. So if you want to interact and maybe guide the next video or help me decide what it is that I'm going to be working on next, use the other platforms so that way we can communicate a little easier and get your ideas into the show. So as you can see there, I wanted to do some work on one and see how it came out before I started working on the second one. So the first one was kind of finished off camera, but I wanted to show how the crackle paint absorbed the burnt umber and how it really got worked into the areas and showed that, you know, that grimy, dirty buildup and stuff like that. So at this point, I've mixed the burnt umber and the orange, and then burnt umber and yellow to try to get some different colors for rust. The yellow and burnt umber did not work out well, so I just stuck with the burnt umber and orange for the first, well, for the first coat. I went in with just burnt umber, and then burnt umber and orange, which you can see on the far left of the palette, and then burnt umber and a lot of orange. So I did like 2 parts burnt umber, 1 part orange, and then 2 parts orange, 1 part burnt umber for the second color. And I'm just speckling it on with the tip of the brush over and over and over again, just light, consistent coat, so that way it builds that detail. And just a couple more up closes. This is the third container that I was working on, and just to show, you know, not everything is super consistent, so that way it actually shows like real weathering and things like that. Again, just applied it with the paper, with the sponge, wiped it off with a paper towel, and then touched up with the brush. But yeah, the cracks in the paint and stuff like that, the lifting of the one-step crackle makes it look like the undercoated paint job is cracking itself. Here we've got a little bit of a highlight of one of the finished containers. So it's got the 3 different layers. It's got the burnt umber and orange, and then the orange with a little bit of burnt umber. And then you can see I went in with just some orange and used a messed up brush that was all just crackled up, and just tapped it and got those vibrant orange sections of the rust covered. I wanted it to be like extra rusty, because I was going to then put on a bunch of other stuff. One thing I did do was I took a dish sponge and used the green side, the scrubber pad, to apply all of the rust to these, and it worked out fantastic. So now comes the fun part. Getting my grass, I'm getting my moss, I'm getting vines and growth and all that other stuff. And I'm going to start applying all of the foliage to these 3 shipping containers. And I honestly couldn't tell you which part was funner, if it was the painting, if it was the rust, if it was this step. Like, I absolutely enjoy the creative aspect of just making these containers and painting minis and all that other stuff. It is such an artistic outlet for me that even if I never play again, I'll probably continue building and painting and creating for the game. But I plan on playing for a very long time. So, um, one thing that I tried to use was some Zap super glue, and that gave me a really hard time. It wasn't tacking up, it wasn't drying quickly, it was taking forever. And when I was working with a miniature, it it acted very similar, but it worked. In this application, it was not working at all. So I ended up using my Mod Podge setting spray and Elmer's glue, and those two held everything in amazingly. So don't overcomplicate your creativity steps in these things. Definitely just take your time and use things that you know that are going to work for sure. What I was doing with the Zap super glue was just super gluing everything that was going to be like crushed under the shipping container. So where the forklift would be able to pick up a shipping container, I wanted grass growing from there, and I was like, oh, let's just super glue it. And man, um, eventually it worked, but it was not worth the effort. And I later found that the Elmer's glue would hold things exactly how I wanted it, a lot easier. So, lesson learned that the Zap super glue mini tubes weren't really as good of a investment as I had originally thought it was. Wanted to throw some foliage up on top that was not dead and dying, so we got a different color grass tuft, and threw some flowers up top as well, and just got real creative with that. And then to get the moss and like vine growth on there, just brushed on the Elmer's glue and then pressed in place the stuff. And as you can see, I just kind of stayed busy and started adding and adding, and this is what they look like now. I really enjoyed the way that the flowers ended up working with the light green grass tufts on top. It looks like, like dirt settled and then grass and flowers grew along with these vines and stuff, um, over these containers that are just rusting and decaying and wherever they are. Um, Thanks for watching, and as always, leave a comment, subscribe, like, and share.